You know, there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hi, I'm Bethany.
I'm Trevor.
And I'm Wade from Stands On Sapphires, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. And today it's an honor and a privilege to have Bethany, Trevor, and Wade of Stands On Sapphires. They have released their self-produced album, Inviting Warfare, back in December 2021, and they have also released their instrumental version of Inviting Warfare. There is no words. See, I got it right that time. I told you.
You got it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
You're so sweet, Wade. You're so sweet. So we're going to be talking about these two albums that they have out right now. So how you guys doing?
Good. Yeah.
Good. Happy to be here.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
So how excited are you to have two different versions of this album out? Because, I mean, this is crazy, and I think it's cool that you've done this, okay? And you've got, like, the real album, and you've got the instrumental album. So how excited are you guys to have both of these out?
Pretty excited. It's cool to kind of release something that, even if it's the same, it's still totally different, because I think we interact with music a lot differently if it's instrumental versus with vocals. So I'm really stoked for people to kind of hear what's going on behind the melody.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers on most of the songs, so it's kind of cool. Even some of the, like, we have a fan club which people have started listening to it a bit early, and they've already said, like, oh, I didn't hear like this part or this part. It's cool that people are picking out things that you might not hear when the vocals are over top of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, after having these two albums out, what are you seeing everybody noticing about this? What are you seeing that they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and anything that you guys can actually improve on moving forward, or what you want to add new to this possibly?
That's like kind of tough to talk about. I know that, kind of going back onto what Trevor was saying, we got feedback about people saying, like, oh, did you like add this lead guitar line in to like replace the vocal melodies on these songs? And we're like, no. Like, it's like, oh, it's like that was just there. So is it like, do you take feedback from that and do you say, oh, should we boost that melody so that people can hear it? But like, it's not really there for people to hear it. It's there to accentuate the vocal line, right? So it's nice to kind of hear people discover like more complexity in the layers of things that we're putting in. But at the same time, we don't know if, like, specifically contrasting between the two albums, if like how helpful that can be in determining where we want to go in the future.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a husband and wife duo. How's it creating music with both of you guys? I know you want to strangle each other probably sometimes, but
Oh.
And also there's the recording.
It's, like, we work really well together. I think like we've got a really good communication, so that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Between each other. And when you're around each other, like, we're self-employed, we do this together all day, every single day. Like, you just have to kind of start to understand each other and work on your communication, and it works really well. But I think, there's obviously times where like we might disagree creatively, but Trevor tends to be kind of the primary, music writer, songwriter, kind of visionary. So it just depends, what we're working on. But for the most part, like, it's kind of cool to like be able to work together as a team.
Yeah, we just know each other's strengths and we just play to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as that, right?
And I like this too. This is a 3-piece band, and I've seen some interviews where everybody's like, well, you got a drummer. You don't need no stinking drummer. You can do it this way you're doing it.
Thank you so much for saying that. Seriously.
But what about when you go on tour? You wanted to take this out on tour, or are you going to have a playing drummer, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have a studio musician with us. I've played live with and without a drummer before in like church scenarios or with other bands, and you just live, you need that person behind the kit bringing the energy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I do play a bit of the drums, so that's where like the drum program, I can't speak, programming comes in. You know, I know what I'm doing. I know, you know, a drummer can't hit 10 cymbals at once because you only have 2 arms. I know all the rules and stuff, but I obviously can't play guitar and drums together. So my skill is primarily guitar. So we'll stick to that, and then we'll get someone else to fill in the other part, right?
Yeah, I think the longer we go on, the more we're like, we're just a 3-piece band, you know. If it feels right and we meet the right person, and it just seems like the next step, obviously we would invite them in permanently, but I think for now, 3-piece, we are what we are. It works.
Yeah, and there's no struggle when I watch your videos. There's no struggle in the music when I listen to it. I mean, you really don't know that there's not a drummer until you actually watch a video and you're like, that's interesting.
Someone's missing.
We're very
pull it off though.
We're very fortunate to live in an era where drum programming is what it is, and we've kind of like talked about this like amongst ourselves and around with other people before about like none of this could have existed in the way that it did if it weren't for like the way that technology has progressed. Like we use Get Good Drums, which is like a super popular programming software that a ton of like very professional like studio musicians also really like to use for a lot of their stuff. And like without that, like none of this really could have happened in the way that it did. We would kind of probably just be like jamming and trying to write songs together and be like, oh, we don't have a drummer. Oh no.
Yeah, I kept using it as an excuse, right? And I mean, so many albums nowadays, you don't know, but most of them, or a lot of like harder rock albums, are actually using programmed drums. They're just hooking up like an electronic kit to it, so it is actually someone playing it, but they're not recording a live drum set anymore because it's so time consuming. It's costs so much money to get the right miking, and you know, it's got to be in the perfect spot everywhere. It's easier just to like have the perfect sound samples already, just get the drummer actually going, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And thank God that we're not living in the 2-inch tape era where you have to cut the tape and go back. And yeah.
I don't think that I'd be a musician in the same way in that era. Like, wait, we need you to do this again. And I'm like,
no.
Yeah.
What led Warfare to be the debut single off the album, guys? What was it about that song that said, yeah, this has to be the one that comes out swinging?
Well, it's not really the debut single. It's kind of paired with another song called For the Fight. Those bookend the album, and they're very similar thematically and musically. So For the Fight was the debut single coming out of that. And I think that just kind of in the writing process, that was like the main thing that spurred the album and the direction that it went, like that type of tone, the type of energy that it was bringing. So it was like a pretty... because it was like the kind of the starting point for how we knew we wanted the album to sound, that it was the natural choice to be like the debut single for it.
What made the band want to do an instrumental version of this album? What led to say, hey, we need to try something else with this?
Yeah,
take it away.
I think, like I said earlier, we had so many layers on this album. We really are incredibly proud of what we accomplished, and we felt like I know I specifically, when I'm working away on different projects, I like to listen to instrumental music. I know a lot of people are very much similar, so they don't get distracted by the lyrics. And we actually had a bunch of feedback from fans being like, oh man, like it'd be cool to have like an instrumental version of this. So we're like, well, let's just do it.
Let's make an instrumental album.
Let's just do it. And then you have whatever version you like the best. We even featured like a few extra bonus tracks at the end of just like the orchestral parts on some of the songs. So you can really hear just what the symphony stuff is going on. Yeah, we just thought it'd be fun, and we just went for it.
I think it's a really cool way to give our fans something that's new but still familiar, because it's a bonus. Like for us, we're not spending, you know, the time it would take us to write a whole new album, and then it's just an instrumental. It would be cool, but that might be like kind of not what people would be expecting from us. So it's a really great way to give our fans a new life to an album that already exists, but also just a cool way for us to put more stuff out there.
So can we see more from Stands on Sapphires down the road like this, or this is just a one-off, or maybe just a little teaser?
I don't know. We've kind of talked about it because we do have a lot of ideas for things we want to do for our albums as they age, you know, maybe for like a 5-year anniversary, 10-year anniversary. We have some really cool ideas for that kind of stuff, but I don't know if we'll make a habit of making instrumental albums, but if our fans are just like absolutely loving it, then why not? It'd be cool to do that.
Yeah. It's a nice, easy, just extra bonus freebie right? So.
Did the pandemic set the band back at all with creating the album, or did it give the band extra time for creativity on this?
I mean, we have been a pandemic band since basically the beginning. I think our first single came out in December of 2019, and then like 4 months later, March, everything went to crap, right? So it didn't really impact us. We've only ever really written. We have 2 albums, both of them were written during the pandemic. We just went for it. I think like obviously lockdowns had a bit of an impact on that. Just had to wait until we could, meet again in person to do recording. But other than that, like we write separately. I'll record, some riffs and stuff, send them to Wade. He'll work on them at his place, and then we'll workshop them when he comes over. So I think the only delay was maybe, gathering limits and things like that.
Yeah.
So all these are all brand new songs. This is nothing that you guys have written previously before this band formed or anything like that, correct? Or is these all brand new songs, or these like some older songs that you guys stored away?
They're all brand new with the exception of the song Hey There towards the end of the album. But Hey There it was repurposed from a song that you wrote like when you were in high school, right? Like over a decade ago, but it's not really the same song. We just kind of like repurposed like the riff and things like that. And the original song was called Hey There also, but I wrote new lyrics for it. I don't even know what the original lyrics were until after I wrote them for that. So that's the only one that I could say is kind of like an older song, but otherwise, they were all brand new for this album.
It's still pretty different now.
Yeah.
Wade, you can hop in, man. Come on, you can join us.
They're I will talk until everyone asks me to stop, given the opportunity, but they're doing a great job talking about specifically repurposing old material and stuff like that. The song Hey There was one that Trevor wrote the guitar riff for, and then I wrote the bass line for back in high school. So it was a really long time ago. And then we knew that we wanted to repurpose it, except for like the main riff, into something pretty different, a lot heavier. We tuned way lower for it. And then I just remember there was a lot of like me writing it. I was having a lot of difficulty figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I finally like came across the bass line. I was like, oh, this is like perfect. This sounds so good. Like, where have I heard before? And it was like the same riff that I had written like 11 years ago for the song. And I was like, yes. So that's just like a funny story that came about writing that.
Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this album? I know these are your babies, but do you guys have any that stand out for each of you?
Go.
I mean, my favorite song of any song we've written is on this album, and it's the last song. It's Warfare. I love Warfare. There's just something about it. I love the riffs. I love what you did. I love the lyrics. I just love how it came together. I think it will until I write something else. I think it will always be my favorite song we have.
I think for me, probably For the Fight. I just love how big it is. I love how anthemic it is. I'm a big fan of like 80s arena rock and modern arena rock, like bands like Shinedown and Alter Bridge. So that's kind of our sound. I think we really hit hard with that. The second for me would be What I Can See. I really love it's a bit more of a power ballad, but I just love the instrumental section. I love just it has like a very crystalline sound to it, and I'm just really happy with how that song turned out.
Yeah, when we were first, or when I was first getting tracks from Trevor, some of the very initial basic guitar ideas, one of them was What I Can See, and I immediately was like, this is going to be my favorite song that we've ever written, and I was right. And like, I think it sounds like really, really good. I'm like very proud of everything we were able to do on that, even though it doesn't really sound like stuff that we have traditionally put out before, but I'm really proud of that. And then recently, though, I think that song I've listened to the most off the album is Not Like Before, which is just like such a contrasting, like go hard and then like back off and then go hard, very dynamic song. And that's definitely the one that I've listened to the most off of this album.
Mm-hmm.
Any tracks that did not make this album we can see on another EP possibly down the road, or another album from you all?
We generally, if we write it, we put it out there, but there is actually one song that didn't make the album, and it was a really pretty, just acoustic guitar and vocal song. And I think we will definitely release it eventually, but when we got all of the songs finished, we just felt like this is a lot of songs, and we already had Orchid, which is a really pretty love ballad. And then What I Can See which is kind of a power ballad. We just feel like it didn't fit, like it didn't feel right with the rest of the album. So it's sitting there in someday land, and we will publish it someday, and it's beautiful, but it just wasn't right for this album.
Was there a track that you were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to?
I feel like there was
Kiss the Ring.
Kiss the Ring, yeah. Kiss the Ring started out very weird. We had the main riffs that's there, but then we had like this key change, and then we already had most of the song written, and then as we were like tracking bass, Wade and I were just like, this just sounds weird. Like, and I already like finished rhythm guitars, like recording final rhythm guitars. So we just like cut the key changes, realized that like there's no way Wade and I could, there was like some stretch that I needed to do. That
was like the big problem. Hard. It was like a key change for like 2 bars, and it was like so ridiculous. We're like, we can never play this live if we wanted to do that. And we were like, we should probably be able to play this live though. So, and we're like, so what should we do? We'll just cut it out. I was like, what if we just didn't do that?
Yeah, and then also just in the mix of it too, it was like it's a very like just a straightforward kind of rock song, but in the mix I added a lot of like kind of synthy elements with on the delays and things like that to make it has a very like synth rock vibe, whereas before it was more of just a kind of like classic rock song. So I think overall that's the most different song from when we started it.
Yeah, it came out a lot different.
Yeah.
Do you feel there's a track on the album for every rock and metal fan out there possibly, or even the instrumental folks who like that stuff?
I personally do. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. I think that's like the biggest strength of this album is that it covers we weren't like, oh, we need to cover this genre and we need to cover this genre. That's just like how it ended up happening. But I really think that after like in the process of writing, for me especially, I was like, this definitely covers a lot of ground. There is an instrumental song on it. There is like a very heavy, like slightly more gent song to it. There's, more classic rock, there's synth rock, there's dance rock, there's like a little bit of math rock going on sometimes, there's lighter stuff.
Yeah, kind of runs the gamut, right?
Yeah, there's kind of a little bit of every sub genre of hard rock on there.
Yeah, I think like my favorite type of writing is like For the Fight and Warfare, like that orchestral, kind of big anthemic stadium arena with some orchestra in there. I'm very inspired by like bands like Trans-Siberian Orchestra growing up, but we also have tons of influence from like Wade and I are big into Periphery, and then also I'm huge into just like old school classic rock, so we kind of just bring all of that in, and we just kind of, it's like a rock and hard rock / metal mashup of just anything we want to do. We just go for it, right?
I've always said I love the albums that have a roller coaster feel to them. And there's days where I want albums that are 1,000 miles an hour. But for the most part, for me to grasp onto it, it's got to have a catchy hook and roller coaster to it. It's got to have that variant for me to say, yeah, that's a good album.
Yeah.
Now, you guys produced this yourself. So how was that experience? Do you like having the control to do it yourself? And would you work with a producer later on or nah?
I'll let you take that one.
I like doing it. It is stressful. It definitely adds a lot to the plate. But I wouldn't be opposed to working with a producer. I'd love to learn from, especially someone who's been doing it a lot longer than I have. We haven't been doing this that long. And but as far as like mixing and stuff, it would be really hard for as far as like the final mix and that to give that to someone else, because it is nice to have that skill so it can sound exactly like we all want it to sound without just firing it off to somebody. They mix it in their house, they send it back, and it's all of a sudden it's like nothing like we pictured. But as far as like the production of like working on the parts together, maybe like refining different parts of the song, I would totally be open to working with someone.
Yeah.
If you guys have anything to add what you like about us doing it. But
go ahead. Sorry.
I think that if you were asking us this question right after we had released like our very first single, it would be a very different answer for us, because we've learned so much since then to now that if we had given it to someone and they had done even what we can just do now on it, we'd be like, whoa, that's amazing. Like we could never do that. But because that didn't happen, now we're at a point where giving over complete creative control, possibly we could give over like a little bit, but giving over complete creative control, it would be pretty much out of the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the growth musically you've seen from yourselves and the band working on this album versus the previous album, Bloom? See any musical growth in each one of you guys?
I think a tremendous amount. I mean, for different reasons. I think Wade and Trevor, in my opinion, just have like a really great skill set that they're bringing, period. Right. Like they just bring it all the time. But in terms of like production, I think that Trevor just blew it out of the water on this one versus our first album, because it was still kind of a learning experience. We were still kind of figuring out what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm also like really proud of how far I've come when I listen to like my vocals on Bloom versus my vocals on the last one. I feel like, and I'm not saying this to like make it about me, but like, I feel like at the three of us, like, I feel like I definitely took it up a notch in terms of my talent, but I think that was just came out of being more confident. Like I put a lot more confidence into the album. I spent more time just getting comfortable, just singing how I wanted to sing, opposed to just feeling like I had to, be a certain way or sound a certain way. So I think there's definitely been huge leaps and bounds between Bloom and Inviting Warfare, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think for me, confidence would be the key word. You go into Bloom being our first ever album. None of us have ever done it. We never really recorded a full album. I haven't mixed a full album. So you're like, oh man, like, I don't know. Can we do this? Is it going to turn out like we want? And then it did. So then all of a sudden you're like, well, I did it before. Now we can just do it again. Yeah. So then you're just like, maybe you're a little too confident after that. And that we're like, we're going to do this all again in less time with only originals and do it all in a year. And then we killed ourselves to do it. but you're just like, I did it before. So there's no excuses now, right? You take away that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's kind of just more places to go with your writing now that you've done certain stuff. Maybe like, I think that we definitely all played it a little more safe on the first recording, but then we were kind of just like, like F it, we'll go hard for this one. And I really think it shows. It's like such a huge contrast, which is like, it's nice because it's like a massive amount of growth. And I love hearing that. But I also think that like, this is like the biggest jump we're going to get. Like we'll still obviously progress as musicians and as bandmates and as producers, etc., writers going forward, but like the contrast in this is so big that like I'm hoping that I'm still like blown away when I know our next album is going to be like bigger and better, but it's not going to be, I think, to the same degree that this is. But it's fun to listen to this part of it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to Stands On Sapphires music in general? What do you hope they get from it when they start to listen to it or take away from it?
We got kick-ass guitar and bass tones.
Amen.
Can I get an amen out there in the crowd? Amen. Oh, that's good. That's good. It does have good guitar playing on it. I'm not trying to boast anybody's ego or anything, but it's all around is good.
His head's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I'm very proud of all of our performances. We all crushed it.
I think we all did a really great job. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add there? What you want people, especially like lyrically, what you might want people to get out of it? Or
yeah, I mean, as a lyricist, you're always hoping that you can kind of impart, at least personally for me, I'm always hoping I can impart an idea or a message or an emotion to people, right? Depending on the song, sometimes that idea is obvious, right? If we're talking like a love song, like I'm talking a love song, that's pretty on the nose. But there are other songs like say Warfare for the Fight, which are catchy and they have really fun lyrics, but to me, there's quite a deeper meaning to them. And so I'm always really hoping that someday I'll get that message from somebody that's like, hey, I heard that song. Like, I can tell you're trying to say something like, what are you getting at? I love to like break down like what I'm actually getting at in all these songs. So yeah, I just really hope that our music, other than just sounding really good, it really like stirs something in people. I really hope that it can help them if they're having a bad day or reframe how they think. And I think, you know, if we want to get super deep about it, I think that's what music really does for all of us. It either boosts our mood or it changes our mood, or in some way it's kind of like, what would our life be without music? Most of our deepest memories are based on a song that maybe helped us through a hard time, or maybe in a song that just gave us a good time. So I'm always hoping that our music will do exactly that.
Yeah, because somebody can take one of your songs and interpret it in their own way.
Yeah,
and that could be their voice, or you know, it could be whatever they need to say, and they can't, and you're doing it through that song.
That's exactly it, and that's what music does, and I love that. I love that everybody can get something different out of it.
Yeah, totally.
We're having church, everybody.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen, sister. Oh God, let me. I'm gonna get amen there, bro. All right. I know you guys have a lot of music since you've been growing up, and I still do to this day, but do you have a go-to album or a song that you find yourself gravitating back to that you cannot kick out? You just tried it, now go listen to it every once in a while. What album is it? Or maybe just a song? What is it, guys?
Wow. I can't start. I need a moment.
Wade, you got this?
There are just like so many. I think that for me, like one of the most like iconic songs that bounces around in my head from time to time that I'm like, I need to listen to this is Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd. I just listened to that, which is like maybe not like the most iconic Pink Floyd song. It's probably like top 5, but it's maybe not the most iconic one. But my dad's a huge Pink Floyd fan amongst many, many other bands. And that was a song that I just really very distinctly remember to listening to a bunch, like when I grew up, like the initial like 4 guitar notes. And even though the song is like 30 minutes long or something, which may have inspired a lot of my musical choices later in life, that is something that I'm like, I need to go back and listen to this every once in a while.
Yeah, I think for me, album wise, one that I always come back to would be Bad Outta Hell 2 by Meatloaf. I grew up on that. I love it. You can probably hear a little bit of that influence in like the production with the orchestra and stuff in some of our songs. I just love the guitar playing on that album is fantastic. The over the top vocals, how just like overly dramatic the whole thing is. I love it. I love just the production of the 500 backing vocals and the, just everything going on. So that is the one album I consistently probably listen to more than any other album. I take breaks here and there, but eventually I always come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's hard for me to pick just one. I grew up on, like we all did, so many songs, so many different kinds.
There's so many choices.
Yeah. There's so many choices, but there's one song that like really stuck with me the first time I heard it when I was a teenager, and it's not rock at all. It's Sleepyhead by Passion Pit. That is like my all-time favorite song. Yeah, most people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I don't know. There's something about it. Every time I listen to it, I just love it. I vibe with it. I have like never skipped it on my playlist. There's just something about it that I just love. So to me, it's always going to be that song.
Hey, everybody has their own flavor of music that they like. So I'm not going to say, no, that sucks. Or I'm not going to say that because, there's stuff I like that people don't like. So, all good. All right, folks, how can people stay in touch with Stands On Sapphires? Buy this album, both albums, of course, singles, everything, merchandise, tour dates, when all this takes off. How can they do that?
We are on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But one thing I really like to ask people to do is to join our email list, which might seem old school, but the reason is like, you'll never miss anything. We send you guys all the cool stories, the cool interviews. We give early access to our album. Like all of our subscribers have already heard this new album before anybody else. So the best way to do that is just hit up our website, which is standsonsapphires.com, and hit subscribe, and you get all that awesome stuff just sent right to you. But if you're a social media person, just find us at Stands On Sapphires.
And before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Yeah, sure. Of course. Hi, I'm Bethany.
I'm Trevor.
And I'm Wade from Stands On Sapphires, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please go check out our Facebook page and go subscribe to my dang YouTube page, folks. It's BODS Mayhem Hour. It's 2 seconds to subscribe because we got a lot of great stuff coming up, and I do giveaways, and I'll even eat a bologna sandwich with you. I've done said that in every interview. I'll sit down and eat a bologna sandwich with you.
That's right. Hit them up.
That's right. Please get out and check out Stands On Sapphires. Pick up these 2 albums. Very, very good, different albums. And I like this. I like how they've done this. You will not be disappointed as always. And I wish you all nothing but the best of luck, and you have support from me, whatever you guys need.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.